Hi, this is trepacer, and welcome to my film series reviews. This is Volume 6, and from the Hannibal Lecter trilogy, which I got from a great fellow YouTuber from the UK. And Part 3 in the series is Hannibal. Okay, this stars Anthony Hopkins and Julianne Moore and Ray Liotta, and this takes place 10 years after the events of Silence of the Lambs, which is the last movie that I reviewed last Sunday. If you want to check that out, you can just check my film series reviews. Anyway, Volume 6. Anyway, this one takes place, came out in 2001, has a great cast to it. It's directed by Ridley Scott, of course, and based on the novel by Thomas Harris, and the screenplay is by David Mamet. Okay, starring, of course, Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal the Cannibal, and of course, this time replacing Jodie Foster is Julianne Moore as an older, wiser Clarice Starling, and then you have Gary Oldman, who plays Mason Verger, a victim of Hannibal the Cannibal, who's a real rich, influential guy who's basically trying to get revenge on Hannibal Lecter. Okay, he was a patient of Hannibal Lecter who liked young boys, and of course Hannibal Lecter basically made him actually take pieces of his own face off. Okay, and like I said, this takes place 10 years later. Jodie Foster is in charge. I think it's in New Orleans of a case which goes horribly wrong, where people die, even an fellow agent dies. So she's kind of in bad standing with the agency, even though it's not really her fault. Okay, and Dr. Lecter, of course, in disguise, is living in Florence, Italy, I believe. Is a curator of a museum. Okay, and he's being a curator at a museum, and also there's a Mason Verger, played by Gary Oldman, decides to use Agent Starling to kind of lure him out of hiding, because he's real rich. Excuse me, he's real rich, and he has influence with the bureau. So he kind of makes it a big deal of the case, and of course this attracts Hannibal Lecter's attention, who who actually sends a note back to Agent Starling, saying about it. He heard about that, about her thing, and about her case and her troubles. Okay, so they actually Mason Verger actually tells the FBI to send Agent Starling to him because he has some evidence that and she can interview him, and basically he tells her about how Dr. Lecter made him basically eat parts of his face off, and so he wants revenge. And you can see he has a big elaborate plan of getting revenge, of first capturing Dr. Lecter and then getting the appropriate part of revenge. Okay, and you have to see the movie to see what kind of revenge he wants. Okay, and also there's a corrupt FBI agent played by Ray Liotta. I think his name is Paul Verger. I think that's his name. Yeah, Paul Carendola. Okay, played by Ray Liotta, who's basically in Verger's pocket, and also at the same time you have an Italian inspector, Rinaldo Pazzi, played by Giancarlo Giannini, who actually who's investigating the disappearance of the previous curator, which, with this being Hannibal Lecter, you can pretty much figure out how that curator ended up. And he's inspecting that when he also starts to notice and suspect that this is Hannibal Lecter. The new curator is Dr. Hannibal Lecter. And of course he reads about the big reward, of course, and then he of course contacts Mason Verger, through his contacts to try to cash in the reward, instead of telling the FBI and Clarence Starling, who's investigating this, that he suspects his curator is Dr. Lecter. So he tries to investigate on his own and try to capture Dr. Lecter by himself and turn it in to get the $3 million reward for himself. And even Clarice Starling warns him, because she actually asked for it, with the letter that he sent back to Starling about her troubles. She had that analyzed with a special, and they had these experts saying it was a special, actually a special perfume that that was put on, a special lotion that was put on the envelopes. And of course, she investigates that, and she finds out that, of course, I think that was sold somewhere in Italy. And of course, she tries to warn Agent Pazzi, Inspector Pazzi, that if this is Hannibal Lecter, you don't want to go nowhere near him. Okay, don't let us know. But of course, Pazzi at this point just wants to get the reward. Of course, Hannibal Lecter, you know Hannibal Lecter, he handles it in his own subtle way. And basically, then the rest of the movie is Hannibal Lecter, after Mason Verger kind of frames Agent Starling, saying she's withholding evidence, and they do that to lure Hannibal Lecter back to the States. And of course, it works. Okay, and then the rest of the movie is Hannibal Lecter playing a kind of a cat and mouse game with Starling, and also trying to get revenge, or I guess stay one step ahead of Mason Verger at the same time. And this movie is a sequel. Like I said, all professional, great acting. Anthony Hopkins is great as usual as Hannibal Lecter. He owns that role. And Julianne Moore was a decent Clarice Starling. Okay, because this is 10 years later, so you have to look at it that way. And I can assume why Jodie Foster probably didn't want to recreate her role, because she probably felt that she did what she had to do in the previous movie, Silence of the Lambs, which to me is a great movie. But this is a decent sequel. Okay, not necessary, it didn't have to be, but it's a decent sequel. You have great professional actors in this. Anthony Hopkins, Julianne Moore, Gary Oldman, Ray Liotta, Giancarlo Giannini, and you have David Andrews is in this as well. You have decent actors in this, and of course directed by Ridley Scott and written by David Mamet, who's a great Broadway playwright. It's all professional, but it does lack what made Silence of the Lambs so great. I think what makes Silence of the Lambs so great, what makes it almost a perfect movie to me, like a 9 out of 10, was just all the characters, and the story was good, and the pacing of it and the whole atmosphere was good. In this movie, it's nice and professional, it's well written and well acted, but it gets to be a little bit, Hannibal Lecter gets to be almost a superhero in a way, which, and it's all professional and stuff, but it's not on the same level, I think, as Silence of the Lambs. That's why I would give Hannibal, it's nice and professional, decently written, and excellently directed by Ridley Scott, and greatly, good performances by the whole cast, but it's just not on the same level to me as Silence of the Lambs. I would give Hannibal a 7 out of 10. Okay, and that's mostly because Anthony Hopkins, like I say, he owns that role, and Julianne Moore is great. Gary Oldman is the Mason Verger, and Ray Liotta, who played a real good dick in this movie. And it's all professionally done and greatly directed, but the story is just not as enticing as Silence of the Lambs was. Okay, and with Hannibal on the loose, and people trying to capture him, and then trying to get revenge on him, and Starling's trying to fight for her, clear her name, and try to catch him at the same time. It's just not, the story's not as riveting as Silence of the Lambs, put it that way. Okay, but it's still good and professional. It's a decent watch and a decent movie. So like I said, that's why I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Okay, and that's the end of my film series review, Volume 6, for the end of the Hannibal Lecter trilogy. And there's only one movie that I don't have now that I actually did see, Manhunter, the one with which is actually Red Dragon, which I did review earlier, and that one I have to get because I've seen that's the one William Peterson as Agent Graham. Okay, and Hannibal Lecter is played by I forgot the guy that was in the X2 movie. I forgot his name, Brian Cox. He's only in the movie briefly. Okay, but I want to get that movie, and I'll probably review that movie later. Okay, I wish I had it now because I really like that movie, Manhunter. That's before the whole Hannibal Lecter thing came out. But anyway, again, a 7 out of 10, and like I said, I like these 3 film series, Hannibal Lecter Collector. And I think I got this from, I was going to say DVD Collector 100, but I think it might have been Robin 176. And if they're watching this video, again, I apologize because I'm still not sure which one you gave it to me. I think it was DVD Collector 100, but it might have been Robin 176. I think she might have gave this to me because I love the Hannibal Lecter movies. I think she gave it to me, I think, in a trade. Anyway, again, let me know what you think of Hannibal. Feel free to leave comments down below. And this is Trepacer saying so long and take care.